I just got a job at a pharmaceutics company. I should have never signed up. When I accepted the job offer from Promethean Pharmaceuticals, I thought my life was finally turning around. For months, I'd been scraping by with freelance work, barely managing to pay rent. The offer from Promethean wasn't just a lifeline. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. Their recruiter reached out after I uploaded my resume to a job board. The company's name sounded vaguely familiar, though I couldn't recall where I'd heard it. A quick online search revealed glowing reviews about their cutting-edge research and generous employee benefits. The pay was double what I'd made in my previous role, and they promised opportunities for growth. It seemed perfect. But from the moment I set foot in their sleek, glass-paneled headquarters, I had a feeling something was off. On my first day, the HR representative, a woman named Laura, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She handed me a thick stack of papers to sign, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, and legal documents full of jargon I didn't understand. "Standard procedure," she said when she noticed me skimming through them. I hesitated, but she assured me, "We take privacy and confidentiality very seriously here. It's nothing unusual." The phrase "legally bound to comply under all circumstances" stood out to me, but I ignored the knot forming in my stomach and signed. My position was in research coordination. My role, as it was explained, involved cataloging data from clinical trials, reviewing experiment reports, and ensuring that everything complied with government regulations. It sounded straightforward enough. I was assigned a workspace in a windowless office on the 4th floor. The walls were stark white, the fluorescent lights cold and clinical. My direct supervisor, Dr. Elias Morgan, was a tall man with piercing blue eyes that seemed to look straight through me. "We value discretion here, Mr. Keller," he said during our brief introduction. "Some of our work is sensitive, and leaks could have serious consequences." His tone was measured, but there was an underlying sharpness that set me on edge. At first, the work was unremarkable. I spent most of my time reviewing spreadsheets and organizing files. Occasionally, I'd get a report marked confidential, Level 3, which required a password-protected login to access. These reports were dense and filled with technical jargon, but the experiments described in them seemed unusual. One report detailed a trial involving a compound called ENC-17, described as a potential neuroplasticity enhancer. The results showed remarkable cognitive improvements in the test subjects, at first. But further down, the side effects section described erratic behavior, hallucinations, and sudden violent outbursts. I flagged the report, unsure if it should be approved. When I brought it to Dr. Morgan, he barely glanced at it before saying, "Send it through. We'll handle the rest." A few weeks in, I started noticing strange things. Late one evening, as I was leaving the office, I saw two men in hazmat suits wheeling a large sealed container down the hallway. The container was marked with biohazard symbols, and a faint red light blinked on its side. "Don't ask questions," Laura had said during orientation. "Curiosity isn't rewarded here." But I couldn't help myself. The next day, I used my login credentials to dig into the internal database. I found a folder labeled Project Lazarus. Most of the files were locked, but one document, a summary report, was accessible. The first line sent a chill down my spine. Objective: revival and reanimation of biologically deceased subjects. The document described experiments involving a serum designed to reactivate cells in cadavers. The initial results were promising. Reactivated cells regenerated tissue and restored vital functions. But the report concluded with an ominous warning. Subjects exhibit unnatural aggression and loss of cognitive control. Termination protocols initiated. I tried to put it out of my mind, telling myself it was just an experimental project that hadn't gone anywhere. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Things escalated when I was called into a meeting with Dr. Morgan and a few other high-ranking officials. "You've been doing excellent work, Mr. Keller," Dr. Morgan said. "We'd like to assign you to a special project." He slid a file across the table. Inside were pages detailing another experimental compound, ZEL-24, designed to enhance physical performance and pain tolerance. "You'll be overseeing the data collection," he said. "It's a critical project for Promethean's future." I wanted to refuse, but the look in his eyes told me it wasn't optional. The first day I accessed the ZL-24 files, I realized how deep I was in. The compound was being tested on human subjects, though none of them were listed by name, just numbers. The results were horrifying. Test subjects showed extreme physical changes: muscle hypertrophy, increased bone density, and rapid healing. But they also suffered from uncontrollable rage, memory loss, and a complete loss of empathy. Video logs accompanied some of the reports. One showed a man, subject 42, being injected with ZL-24. At first, he appeared calm, even euphoric. But minutes later, he began convulsing, his veins darkening as his muscles swelled unnaturally. The video cut to him attacking the researchers. Blood spattered the walls before the feed abruptly ended. I couldn't sleep that night. Over the next few weeks, my paranoia grew. I started noticing the same faces in the hallways, stern men in black suits who seemed to be watching me. My computer login credentials were changed without explanation, limiting my access. One night, I stayed late to finish a report. As I was leaving, I heard voices coming from the lab down the hall. I crept closer, peering through the small window in the door. Inside, I saw a group of researchers gathered around a gurney. On it lay a figure strapped down with thick restraints. The figure moved. Its body was grotesquely swollen, its skin pale and translucent. Its eyes darted wildly, and its mouth opened in a soundless scream. I stumbled back, my heart racing, and hurried out of the building. The next day, I found a note on my desk. "Leave while you still can." It wasn't signed, but I had a feeling someone inside the company was trying to warn me. That evening, I packed a bag and decided to quit. But when I tried to leave my apartment, two men in suits were waiting at the door. "Mr. Keller," one of them said, "Dr. Morgan would like to speak with you." They escorted me back to the headquarters, this time to a floor I'd never been to before. The walls were lined with reinforced glass, behind which I glimpsed figures moving in unnatural ways. Dr. Morgan was waiting for me in a sterile, brightly lit room. "You've seen too much," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We can't let you leave." I tried to argue, but he raised a hand. "You signed a contract, Mr. Keller. You belong to us now." I don't know how long I've been here. Days blur into nights, and I'm confined to a small room with no windows. They bring me food and water, but no one speaks to me. Occasionally, I hear screams echoing through the halls. I made a mistake, joining Promethean Pharmaceuticals. And now, I'm not sure I'll ever get out.